For 14 years, they rode into our living rooms every Sunday night. A father and his 3 sons, navigating the wild frontier of the Nevada territory from their sprawling Ponderosa ranch. The Cartwrights weren't just television characters. They were America's family, beaming into homes across the nation in vibrant color when most shows still aired in black and white. But what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? What dark shadows fell across the lives of these beloved actors once the fictitious world of Virginia City faded to black? And why does the mysterious cloud that hangs over this iconic Western series continue to fascinate audiences more than 5 decades after its final episode? Stay with me as we dive into what really happened to the cast of Bonanza and why their stories, both the triumphs and the tragedies, still resonate with us today. In today's fragmented media landscape, where streaming platforms battle for our attention and shows come and go with dizzying speed, Bonanza stands as a cultural monolith. Walk into almost any country in the world and mention the name Cartwright, and you'll likely receive a nod of recognition. Despite ending in 1973, the series continues to air in syndication in over 100 countries, with new generations discovering the adventures of Ben, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe through streaming services and DVD collections. Yet this enduring popularity is shadowed by what many fans refer to as the Bonanza curse. Internet forums and fan sites buzz with theories about the seemingly disproportionate amount of tragedy that befell the main cast. From premature deaths to career struggles to on-set tensions that remained hidden from public view for decades, the real-life drama behind the scenes of this pioneering Western rivals anything that was scripted for the show itself. The Ponderosa Ranch, the fictional 1,000-square-mile home of the Cartwrights, even became a tourist attraction near Lake Tahoe until its closure in 2004. The theme park welcomed over 10 million visitors during its operation, demonstrating how the show's legacy extended far beyond television. Even today, Bonanza memorabilia sells for thousands of dollars at auctions, and fan conventions continue to celebrate what many consider the greatest Western series of all time. But beneath this enduring popularity lies a complex web of human stories. Stories of ambition, conflict, creativity, health struggles, and ultimately, mortality. The map of the Ponderosa that burned in the show's opening credits may have been fictional, but the lives of the actors who brought the Cartwrights to life were all too real, and in some cases, all too brief. Let's rewind to the moment it all began. The year was 1959, and television was still finding its footing as America's dominant entertainment medium. NBC was looking for a new Western series, a genre that dominated the airwaves at the time, with shows like Gunsmoke and Wagon Train pulling in massive audiences, but network executives wanted something different, something that would showcase their push into color programming and appeal to family audiences. Producer David Dortort envisioned a show that would break from Western traditions. Instead of focusing on a lone gunslinger or lawman, Bonanza would center on a wealthy landowner and his 3 grown sons, each from a different mother. The Cartwright family would tackle moral dilemmas, family conflicts, and social issues, a far cry from the simple good versus evil narratives of many Westerns of the era. Casting the Cartwright family proved crucial to the show's chemistry. Canadian actor Lorne Greene, with his commanding presence and deep resonant voice, was cast as patriarch Ben Cartwright. Pernell Roberts, a classically trained actor with Broadway experience, took the role of eldest son Adam. Dan Blocker, a 6'4", 300-pound former teacher from Texas with a gentle demeanor, became the lovable middle son Hoss. And Michael Landon, a young actor who had appeared in I Was a Teenage Werewolf and had a troubled personal background, rounded out the family as youngest son Little Joe. The series premiered on September 12, 1959, in a difficult Saturday night time slot. Initial ratings were mediocre, and cancellation loomed. NBC executives, however, believed in the show's potential and made a fateful decision in 1961, moving Bonanza to Sunday nights at 9 p.m., where it would remain for most of its run. That decision would change television history and the lives of its cast members forever. The Sunday nighttime slot proved to be the catalyst Bonanza needed. By 1964, it had surged to become the most watched program on American television, a position it would hold for 3 consecutive seasons. The series format, hour-long episodes with complex story arcs, allowed for deeper character development than many of its contemporaries, and the decision to film in color gave viewers a vibrant portrait of the American West that black-and-white westerns couldn't match. Bonanza's success transformed its lead actors from working performers into household names. Lorne Greene became America's ideal father figure, wise, fair, and compassionate, yet firm when necessary. The role was a stark contrast to his previous typecasting as villains. Dan Blocker's Hoss Cartwright embodied gentle strength, becoming one of television's most beloved characters. Michael Landon's portrayal of the impulsive Little Joe made him a teen heartthrob and set him on a path to becoming one of television's most successful actor-directors. The show's popularity extended far beyond viewership. Merchandise flooded the market. Lunchboxes, action figures, comic books, novels, and even a Ponderosa Ranch-themed restaurant chain. For the cast, this meant unprecedented fame and financial success. Lorne Greene was earning approximately $16,000 per episode by the mid-1960s, while the other leads commanded similar salaries. Extraordinary compensation for television actors of that era. Perhaps most significantly, Bonanza broke new ground in addressing social issues within the Western format. Episodes tackled racism, prejudice, immigration, and environmental concerns, topics that many primetime shows avoided. The series featured one of television's first recurring Asian characters in Hop Sing, the Cartwright's cook and household manager. While the character contained stereotypical elements typical of the era, he was portrayed with dignity and respect unusual for Asian characters on television at that time. By 1966, Bonanza wasn't just a hit show. It was a cultural institution. The Cartwrights were welcomed into American homes with a familiarity reserved for actual family members. But beneath this picture-perfect surface, cracks were beginning to form. Cracks that would eventually widen into chasms both on and off the set. Here's where it gets complicated. Despite Bonanza's immense success, not everyone on the Ponderosa was content. Pernell Roberts, who played eldest son Adam Cartwright, became increasingly frustrated with what he viewed as the show's simplistic scripts and his character's limitations. A classically trained actor with Shakespearean experience, Roberts had agreed to the role believing television could be a medium for meaningful drama. As the series progressed, he became vocal about his artistic disappointments. Behind the scenes, tensions mounted between Roberts and producer David Dortort. Roberts pushed for more complex storylines and social commentary, while Dortort was conscious of the network's expectations for accessible family entertainment. Roberts also expressed concern about the limited roles for non-white actors on the show, and what he perceived as stereotypical portrayals when they did appear. By 1965, the situation had reached a breaking point. Despite being one of the highest-paid actors on television and enjoying immense popularity, Roberts made the shocking decision to leave the series after 6 seasons. The official explanation was that he wished to pursue other acting opportunities, but insiders reported that creative differences had made his position untenable. The producers chose not to recast Adam Cartwright, instead explaining his absence by having the character take an extended trip to Europe and Australia. The show's writers adjusted storylines to focus more on the remaining 3 Cartwrights, and new ranch hands were introduced to fill the void, including Candy Canaday and later Jamie Hunter, an orphan adopted by Ben. Roberts' departure marked the first major disruption to the Cartwright family unit, but the show's ratings remained strong. For Roberts himself, however, the decision proved complex. While he found critical acclaim in theater and guest roles on other television series, he never again achieved the mainstream success or financial security that Bonanza had provided. In later interviews, he expressed no regrets about leaving, but acknowledged the double-edged sword of walking away from such a popular role. What Roberts could not have known was that his departure was merely the first in a series of painful disruptions that would eventually engulf the entire Bonanza family. Disruptions far more permanent and tragic than a character's trip to Europe. On May 13, 1972, the Bonanza family, both on-screen and off, suffered a devastating blow that would forever alter the course of the series. Dan Blocker, the beloved gentle giant who had brought Hoss Cartwright to life for 13 seasons, died unexpectedly from a pulmonary embolism following gallbladder surgery. He was just 43 years old. The loss was staggering. Unlike Pernell Roberts' departure, which had been planned and written around, Blocker's death came without warning during a production hiatus. The writers, producers, and cast were left to grapple not only with personal grief, but also with an impossible creative challenge: how to continue a family drama when one of its central members was suddenly, irrevocably gone. In an unprecedented move for television at the time, the producers decided to acknowledge the death within the show's narrative. When Bonanza returned for its 14th season in September 1972, viewers learned that Hoss Cartwright had drowned while saving another person's life. A heroic end that reflected the character's selfless nature. The episode Forever, which dealt with the aftermath of Hoss's death, featured some of the most emotionally raw performances in the series' history, particularly from Lorne Greene, whose grief for his on-screen son mirrored his real-life mourning for his friend and colleague. For Michael Landon, who had grown extremely close to Blocker over their years working together, the loss was particularly difficult. In later interviews, he revealed that filming scenes on the Ponderosa set without Blocker felt hollow and wrong. The two had shared a special chemistry on screen that translated into a genuine friendship off-camera. Landon, known for his practical jokes on set, said that Blocker had been his favorite target and most appreciative audience. Behind the scenes, NBC executives worried about the show's future. Blocker had been consistently ranked as viewers' favorite character in audience surveys, and his unique combination of physical power and emotional vulnerability had been central to many of the series' most memorable episodes. The network briefly considered cancellation, but ultimately decided to continue for one final season. The death of Dan Blocker didn't just remove a beloved character from Bonanza, it struck at the heart of what had made the show special: the believable, complex relationships among the Cartwright family members. Without the buffering presence of Hoss between the sometimes headstrong Ben and Little Joe, the family dynamic that had sustained the series for over a decade was fundamentally altered. The 14th season of Bonanza premiered in September 1972 to strong initial ratings driven partly by viewers' curiosity about how the show would handle Blocker's absence. But as the season progressed, viewership began to decline. The chemistry that had defined the series was noticeably altered, and despite the addition of a new ranch hand character, Griff King, played by Tim Matheson, the Ponderosa felt emptier without Hoss's presence. NBC executives, noting the ratings decline and facing pressure to attract younger viewers, made a fateful decision midway through the season. In November 1972, they moved Bonanza from its long-established Sunday nighttime slot to Tuesday nights, where it faced stiff competition. This schedule change proved disastrous, and ratings plummeted further. On January 16, 1973, after 431 episodes spanning 14 seasons, NBC announced the cancellation of Bonanza. The final episode, The Hunter, aired on January 23, 1973, without any special farewell or closure for the characters who had become part of American cultural consciousness. There was no grand finale, no wrapping up of storylines. The Cartwrights simply rode off into the sunset, their future adventures left to the imagination of viewers. For the remaining cast members, the cancellation brought mixed emotions. Lorne Greene, who had embodied Ben Cartwright for nearly a decade and a half, expressed disappointment at the abrupt ending, but acknowledged that the show's spirit had changed after Blocker's death. Michael Landon, who had increasingly taken on directing responsibilities in addition to his acting role, was ready to pursue new creative challenges, though he later confessed to missing the camaraderie of the Bonanza set. The cancellation marked the end of an era not just for the cast, but for television itself. Bonanza had been one of the last great westerns of the television golden age, and its conclusion signaled a shifting landscape in American entertainment. The sprawling, multi-generational family drama would give way to grittier, more urban-centered shows reflecting the changing social climate of the 1970s. But for fans who had welcomed the Cartwrights into their homes every Sunday night for over a decade, the end of Bonanza left a void. And for the actors who had brought these characters to life, the question remained: what happens after you've been part of television history? The years following Bonanza's cancellation revealed starkly different paths for its remaining cast members. For Michael Landon, the end of his tenure as Little Joe Cartwright marked not a conclusion, but a transition to even greater success. In 1974, just a year after Bonanza's cancellation, Landon created, starred in, and frequently directed Little House on the Prairie, another period drama that would run for 9 successful seasons. He would follow this with Highway to Heaven in the 1980s, establishing himself as one of television's most bankable and creatively autonomous stars. Lorne Greene leveraged his paternal Cartwright image into a new science fiction series, Battlestar Galactica, in 1978, playing Commander Adama, essentially Ben Cartwright in space, as some critics noted. Though the series lasted only 1 season in its original run, it developed a cult following. Greene remained a constant presence on television through the 1970s and 1980s, appearing in miniseries, TV movies, and as a familiar commercial spokesman, his distinctive voice instantly recognizable to generations of viewers. For Pernell Roberts, who had left the series years earlier, post-Bonanza life included theater work, guest roles on various television series, and eventually, another long-running series when he took the title role in Trapper John, M.D., from 1979 to 1986. The medical drama allowed Roberts to play a more nuanced character than he felt Adam Cartwright had been, and he earned an Emmy nomination for his performance. Victor Sen-Young, who had played the Cartwrights' cook Hop Sing throughout the series, continued to work in film and television while also establishing himself as a successful cookbook author and demonstrating Cantonese cooking techniques. He supplemented his acting income by manufacturing and selling Hop Sing's Chinese abacus cookies, becoming something of an entrepreneur in his later years. Mitch Vogel, who had joined the cast as the adopted Jamie Cartwright in the later seasons, found the transition to adult roles challenging, as did many child actors of the era. After appearing in several films and television shows following Bonanza, he eventually left Hollywood entirely for a private life away from the entertainment industry. David Canary, who had played ranch foreman Candy Canaday, went on to his greatest fame as the twins Adam and Stuart Chandler on the soap opera All My Children, roles that would earn him 5 Emmy Awards, more success than he had found during his Bonanza years. For these actors, Bonanza represented different things. For some, a launchpad; for others, a creative prison; for still others, the peak of their professional lives. But for all of them, it remained the project for which they would be best remembered, regardless of what came after. Fast forward to July 1st, 1991. The entertainment world was stunned when Michael Landon, just 54 years old and 3 months after announcing he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, died at his Malibu home surrounded by family. The man who had played Little Joe Cartwright, youthful, vibrant, seemingly indestructible, was gone, leaving behind not only his Bonanza legacy, but the beloved characters of Charles Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie and Jonathan Smith from Highway to Heaven. Landon's death felt particularly cruel, given his lifelong attention to physical fitness and health. A former track and field athlete who maintained rigorous exercise habits throughout his life, Landon had seemed the picture of vitality. His rapid decline shocked fans and colleagues alike. His funeral drew over 500 attendees from across the entertainment industry, with his Little House co-star Melissa Gilbert delivering a eulogy that spoke of Landon's influence as both a creative partner and a father figure. By this point, Landon was the third major Bonanza cast member to die relatively young. Dan Blocker had passed in 1972 at 43, and Victor Sen-Yung had died in 1980 at 65 from accidental carbon monoxide poisoning caused by a faulty heater in his home. These losses, coming decades before their contemporaries might have expected to face mortality, fueled speculation about a Bonanza curse among fans and in the press. The deaths continued. Lorne Greene, who had suffered from pneumonia after heart surgery, died on September 11, 1987, at age 72. While his age made his passing less shocking than those of his younger co-stars, the loss of the Ponderosa patriarch seemed to mark the definitive end of the Bonanza era. In the ensuing years, other cast members joined them. Pernell Roberts, the first to leave the series but the last of the original Cartwrights to pass away, died of pancreatic cancer, the same disease that had taken Landon, on January 24, 2010, at age 81. David Canary, who had played Candy, died in 2015 at 77 from natural causes. The pattern of loss created a somber counterpoint to the enduring popularity of the series itself, which continued to air in syndication around the world. New generations discovered the show even as the actors who had brought it to life departed one by one, creating a strange immortality. Ben, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe ride forever across television screens, eternally vital, while the men who portrayed them succumbed to the passage of time and illness. The deaths of so many Bonanza cast members before what might be considered a full lifespan, particularly Blocker at 43 and Landon at 54, inevitably led to speculation about a curse associated with the series. Internet forums and fan sites continue to perpetuate theories ranging from environmental hazards on the set to cosmic punishment for the show's occasionally problematic portrayal of Native Americans and other groups. But what do the facts actually tell us? A closer examination reveals more coincidence than curse. Dan Blocker's death resulted from a pulmonary embolism, a known but relatively uncommon complication of surgery that can strike patients of any age or health status. Michael Landon's pancreatic cancer, while diagnosed at a younger age than typical, is one of the most aggressive and lethal forms of cancer, often detected only in advanced stages due to vague early symptoms. Pernell Roberts also succumbed to pancreatic cancer, but at 81, well within the disease's more common age range. Victor Sen-Yung's accidental death from carbon monoxide poisoning was a tragic household accident unrelated to his acting career. Lorne Greene's death from pneumonia following heart surgery at 72 was not statistically unusual for a man of his age who had undergone a major medical procedure. Medical records and public statements from family members don't support any connection between these deaths and the production of Bonanza. The filming locations in Nevada and California have not shown unusual cancer clusters or environmental hazards. The series was primarily shot at Paramount Studios and on location at Lake Tahoe, neither of which has demonstrated elevated health risks compared to other film production facilities or natural areas. What the pattern does reflect is the reality of mortality statistics in mid to late 20th century America, particularly for men. Heart disease, cancer, and surgical complications were leading causes of death during this period, and the Bonanza cast's experiences, while individually tragic, collectively fall within expected patterns for their demographic group. Perhaps the perception of a curse stems more from the contrast between the characters' timelessness, forever frozen in the endless summer of syndicated television, and the inescapable mortality of the actors who portrayed them. The Cartwrights were larger than life, immune to time's passage in a way their portrayers could never be. Beyond the statistics and medical facts lies a more human story, one of real people whose lives were shaped by their association with an iconic television series. For all its demands and frustrations, Bonanza created a unique bond among its cast members that transcended professional relationships. Despite his early departure from the show, Pernell Roberts maintained connections with his former castmates, particularly Dan Blocker, with whom he shared progressive political views uncommon in Hollywood at the time. Both men were early supporters of the civil rights movement, with Roberts notably refusing to perform in segregated venues during personal appearances. Michael Landon's relationship with Lorne Greene evolved from that of a young actor looking up to an established veteran to something resembling a genuine father-son bond. Greene, whose own children were much younger than Landon, took pride in the younger actor's growth as a director and producer. In interviews after Greene's death, Landon often credited him with teaching patience and professionalism during the long, demanding shooting schedules. The cast's closeness was perhaps most poignantly demonstrated in their response to Dan Blocker's sudden death. Production was temporarily halted as the entire company mourned. Michael Landon and Lorne Greene served as pallbearers at Blocker's funeral, and decades later, both men would still become emotional when discussing their gentle giant colleague in interviews. Victor Sen Jung's experience offers another dimension to the human story of Bonanza. While his character Hop Sing was sometimes relegated to stereotypical Chinese cook moments, Jung himself was a complex individual. A California-born actor with a degree in economics who had appeared in over 100 films before Bonanza, including prestigious productions like The Good Earth and 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. On set, he was known for his patience with the sometimes limited material he was given, and for serving as an unofficial cultural advisor when scripts dealt with Asian characters or themes. For David Canary, who joined the cast after Roberts' departure, Bonanza represented both opportunity and frustration. Though grateful for the exposure the role of Candy provided, he later revealed that salary disputes led to his temporary departure from the series in 1970. Yet he too formed lasting friendships with his co-stars, particularly Lorne Greene, who recommended him for roles after the series ended. These human connections, sometimes strained, sometimes strengthened by the pressure cooker environment of producing a weekly hour-long drama, provide a counterpoint to the tragic patterns that emerged in the decades following the show's conclusion. Whatever happened to the cast after Bonanza, they carried with them the experience of having been part of a true television phenomenon, for better and worse. Fast forward to September 1st, 2025. More than 65 years after Bonanza first premiered, its cultural footprint remains remarkably resilient. The series continues to air on cable networks specializing in classic television and streams on multiple platforms, introducing the Cartwright family to viewers who weren't born until decades after the show concluded. Annual Bonanza fan conventions still draw hundreds of attendees, many of whom know every episode by heart. Of the main cast members, only Mitch Vogel and Tim Matheson remain alive today. Vogel, now in his late 60s, occasionally appears at Western Heritage events, but has largely maintained his privacy after leaving Hollywood in the late 1970s. Matheson went on to a successful career as both an actor and director, appearing in films like Animal House and The West Wing, occasionally sharing memories of his brief but formative time on the Bonanza set. The physical landmarks of the series have largely disappeared. The Ponderosa Ranch theme park near Incline Village, Nevada, which had recreated the Cartwright home and ranch buildings from the show, closed in 2004. The property was sold to a private owner, and the buildings were dismantled, removing a pilgrimage site that had attracted Bonanza fans for decades. The famous burning map in the opening credits, perhaps the most recognizable cartographic image in television history, was sold at auction in 2010 for $38,750, purchased by a private collector. Yet even as these tangible connections to the series fade, scholarly interest in Bonanza has grown. Academic studies examining the show's treatment of race, gender, and environmental themes have proliferated in recent years, with university courses in media studies and American cultural history often featuring episodes as primary texts. The series' approach to social issues, sometimes progressive for its era, sometimes reflecting the limitations of its time, provides a window into American attitudes during a period of significant social change. The controversies that occasionally surrounded the production, from Pernell Roberts' criticisms of the writing to questions about the show's portrayal of Native Americans and other ethnic groups, have become part of a larger conversation about representation in media, past and present. Rather than diminishing interest in Bonanza, these discussions have given the series new relevance as an artifact worthy of critical examination. Perhaps most significantly, the innovative multi-generational family structure that Bonanza pioneered, focusing on adult relationships rather than traditional nuclear families, has become a standard format in television drama, with shows from Dallas to Succession owing a creative debt to the Cartwright model. The series demonstrated that viewers would invest in complex family dynamics among adults, an insight that transformed television storytelling. The story of Bonanza and its cast represents more than just the rise and fall of a television western. It offers a unique lens through which to view the evolution of American entertainment, the price of fame, and the complex relationships that develop among creative collaborators under the intense pressure of producing a hit series. The deaths that came to define the post-Bonanza narrative for many cast members, from Dan Blocker's shocking early passing to Michael Landon's public battle with cancer, remind us of the disconnect between the immortality of creative work and the fragility of those who create it. The Cartwrights continue their adventures in perpetual syndication, eternally vital, while the actors who gave them life were subject to the same vulnerabilities as any of us. Yet there is something hopeful in this contrast as well. Through their work on Bonanza, these performers created characters and stories that continue to resonate with audiences worldwide, decades after their own departures. Few of us will leave such an enduring legacy, touching lives across generations and geographical boundaries. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Bonanza phenomenon is not the speculation about curses or the focus on tragedy, but the fact that a Western drama about a father and his adult sons created such a powerful connection with viewers that it endures more than 6 decades after its premiere. In a media landscape of increasing fragmentation and diminishing attention spans, the achievement of Bonanza, 431 episodes that still command viewership and analysis, stands as a testament to the power of storytelling centered on family bonds, moral choices, and the mythos of the American West. The Cartwright saga, both on screen and behind the cameras, reminds us that every creative work carries within it the actual lives of those who made it. Their triumphs, struggles, conflicts, reconciliations, and ultimately their absence. That complexity adds depth to our appreciation of Bonanza as not just entertainment, but as a human document of its time. What happened to the cast of Bonanza turns out to be both simpler and more complex than the sensationalized headlines might suggest. They lived, they created, they struggled, they achieved, and yes, they died, as all of us eventually will. But in between, they gave life to characters who continue to ride across our screens and our cultural consciousness, keeping a particular vision of American values and family bonds alive long after the actors themselves have taken their final bows. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the real story behind Bonanza and its cast, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the classic shows and stars that shaped television history. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on new uploads, and share your own Bonanza memories in the comments below. Until next time, this is Golden Age Classics, thanking you for joining us on the Ponderosa one more time.